Alright, this time I made a manga-inspired comic, and it also turned into a webtoon. This idea here started upon graduating college last year. I had an assignment to create a board game, and there weren't many restrictions, so I leaned into my love for anime and drawing, and that's where the night shift idea started. So the story is about an outrageously large liminal convenience store like Buc-ee's, but bigger, that becomes paranormal at night, where three employees, Mindy, Sayla, and Ron, try to survive and discover what's really going on. I first started writing everything into a Google Doc: the story, plot points, things about the characters, and basic dialogue. After making the plot, which are events that occur in the story, I used a summary of it to create a dialogue for each panel. Then I moved into thumbnailing. I made really light, non-detailed sketches of the scene and characters in each panel to get a good feel for the pacing and composition. At this step, I could decide whether or not I liked this direction or if I should deviate a bit from how I presented the story. Next, I started drawing on manga deleter paper. I measure out each panel with a ruler and pencil. I did this somewhat consistently, and I go over those lines with micron size 0.5 or 0.3. I initially meant to create the layout standard manga format, but I ended up doing left to right, so I didn't have to focus very intensely on the psychology of the natural reading directions of each panel for manga format. I use techniques such as hatching and stippling, which I had never really done much before, so it was all a very new learning experience. Once I was happy with the inking phase, I scanned in the pages at 600 dpi on a standard printer. I used Photoshop to clean up the line art, separate the ink from the page, darkening them, and then I moved into Clip Studio Paint, where I added gradients, halftones, refined some line art, and added text bubbles. I think I'll draw in the text bubbles next time. Then I finally went back into Photoshop, added in text, which I could have done in Clip Studio Paint, and I made all the manga pages into a PDF. Then I went back into Clip Studio Paint to make a webtoon format, where I cut out each panel and placed them vertically. Then I uploaded it to Webtoon. I initially didn't know how I was going to do any of this, but just followed the mindset of I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Here are 2 finished pages of my comic. If you'd like to read the rest, the link is in the description. And until next time, drink more tea.